Hey, what's up, YouTube? So, I woke up this morning and I was really in the mood for some Homestate tacos. If anyone's familiar with Homestate tacos, I feel like you might have to live in the area or in Los Angeles to know what Homestate tacos are. They're so good. So it's currently Sunday morning. I got a really good night's sleep last night. Not as anxious as some nights before. Does anyone ever experience this? You're lying in bed and you have so much energy, you can't stay still. I'll often just lie in bed and I'll just shake my leg. I don't know. And I just feel like I have to get up and run a mile or something. And I'm literally just laying in bed, doing nothing. It's the weirdest thing. So they're quite small, Homestate tacos, but they're really good. They're really filling. They got 4. Let's get the Trinity one. The Trinity one's good. Okay, first things first, let's vent, man. Homestate is so good, and they know they're so good that they're able to charge a $3.99 delivery fee. And I hadn't been on I hadn't gotten their tacos in such a long time. And when I went to go check the prices, their prices had gone up. And now, the tacos are smaller. Man. The economy today is so fucked up. And I feel I know why they're doing it, because groceries are hella expensive and food is just getting astronomically crazy. It's just it's so weird, because I was talking to a friend the other day and I was we do it to each other, us as humans, we're I'm gonna charge you this much for this thing, but it's just because resources are dwindling. I get it, there's more people on the planet. It costs more to make things that people can eat. I don't know, man. I think what's most disappointing is that they actually went up, in the delivery price, $3.99. Jeez. Okay, this is what the taco looks like. So I wanted to start making these kind of vlog videos, of just kind of me sitting down and talking to the camera and letting you in a little bit who I am. I know if you've been watching my videos, I post videos of me gaming, and I try to do other videos, and I try to conceptualize these things. I did a get to know me video, and it was all about me being solosexual, polyamorous, and that was kind of my first introduction. But I feel no one actually knows who the fuck I am. So I figured I might as well just sit down and eat and chat with y'all. It's good though, I'm not gonna lie. I woke up and I was fuck, I'm gonna pay this fucking fee because they know they're good. They do it because they know that people will buy it. So, let's see, what can I tell you about myself? Well, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I've been here most of my life. I went to elementary school, so I grew up in a really small city. It was semi-industrial. It wasn't it was semi-industrial. So I wouldn't say it was a suburban city. It was more a half industrial, half suburban. So it was a lot of Mexican families. Basically my high school was probably 90 to 95% Mexican American. Went to high school, junior high here. There's an airplane. Growing up was challenging. I won't get into specifics. But it was a rough upbringing, both in my family, both in the neighborhood, I just didn't have a safe. From what I recall, it wasn't a safe and happy environment by any means. And, you know, there'll come a time in my life when I'm ready to share that story with everyone. I don't share it with a lot of people because it's really traumatic. But some close people of mine know kind of bits and pieces here, and they kind of just piece the pieces together. It's hard to talk about my upbringing and my childhood because even I don't believe it. There was just a lot of disassociation going on. So oftentimes I'll think back on my life and I'll just be like, did that really happen to me? Or am I making that up? Or, you know, did that happen to somebody else? It's really hard to really, or sometimes I feel like I saw it in a movie or in a TV show. Like it couldn't have possibly happened to me. Anyway, I went to high school and I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I mean, I had like a vague idea of like what my interests were. I was really passionate about, like, at the time I'm passionate about like acting, and I thought I wanted to be an actor. I don't anymore. I guess I just was like, I need something to do that give me the most attention because I just lacked that growing up. So after I graduated high school, I straight away went to community college. It was probably like a big mistake, but I think the idea, the goal, like family was like, you need to go to college. Like, we immigrated to this country. Like, you need to do better than us. And so there was a lot of pressure for me to go to college. So I did. And I think I got an interest in like journalism. So I was doing journalism for a little bit. And then I think I stopped going to community college. And then I got a full-time job. I was doing like nonprofit work, which was really shitty. Just for me, like, just organization itself. Like, it was just a really bad place to work. And they were taking advantage of their employees and all that stuff. And then throughout this entire time, I was really interested in like magazines. I was really interested in like fashion photography. And so I was actually working for Napster. If anyone remembers the music streaming platform Napster back in the day, this will tell you how old I am. And I was working there, and I was going to community college. And I was talking to a coworker about how much I loved photography, and they're like, "Oh, you should take a photography class." And I was like, "Oh, that's a really great idea." So then I ended up taking this really cool like black and white photography class at a local college, and I fell in love, and I was actually really good at it. And my professor at the time was like, "Oh, you should go to art school." And I had like no idea what art school was. Like, I didn't even know art school was a thing. Like, I just thought you would go to like a UC. Like, all of my friends from my high school went to like UC Riverside and Cal State LA and like all of these like normal colleges, standard colleges. And I was like, "Oh, cool! Like, let's go to art school." I started researching art schools. And when I started really getting a lot of information on art schools, I had my heart set on New York City. Excuse me, like, I really wanted to go to New York. Like, I applied to School of Visual Arts. I applied to Pratt, and I got into both, which is really exciting. I also got into the Art Center College of Design here in California, in Pasadena. And I remember taking a trip with a couple of buddies out there to New York. And it was a perfect time. I was going to go in and check out these schools, and I did. And I just fell in love with New York. And I remember we had gone out with a couple of friends, and we got really shit-faced the night before. And I woke up super early because I was like, I'm going to go and like check out these schools. And all my friends were hungover, and they're like, we can't go. And I was like, I'm going to go by myself. So I figured it out. I got on a train. I started walking blocks. And like, it was during that time by myself, like walking in New York. And it was kind of coming towards the fall. And like, if you've never been in the fall into New York, it's super romantic. Like, it's just has such a feeling and a vibe. And I fell in love, and I was like, I need to be here. I need to be in New York going to school. Little did I realize how expensive art school would be. So unfortunately, art school in New York wasn't in the cards. A boyfriend that I had at the time was like, why don't you go to art center? Like, he lived really close by in a neighboring city. He's like, everyone goes to art center. It's a really, really great school. You should check it out. And so I did. And so ultimately I decided that I was going to go to art school in Pasadena. And that's what I did. So I got my BFA in photography and imaging. And everyone was really surprised because I was really bad at academics. Like, I didn't excel in high school at all. I had an older brother who was super good, went to a magnet school, was super smarty. But I was always a creative. Like, I was just, math never made sense to me. Science never made sense to me. What did make sense was like literature, art, anything creative, anything where I could just express myself. I excelled at. That's just what I was good at. So yeah, I did that. So photography was what I did. And then I graduated art school, and then I had a professor who really enjoyed my portfolio, and she took a look at it. She told, you're inspired by New York photographers. You should go to New York. Like, you should work in that industry, in that field. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to New York. So I sold my car, I packed my things, and like, I feel like maybe I graduated in the summer. So like that December, I was in New York. I was living out there, and trying to like make it happen. Go to New York. And it's a really fun time. I tried so hard to get into like the photo industry, like the photography industry. And it was so difficult. It was such a niche place. Like, the only way you were going to get successful being a photographer or like being in that world was if you knew someone who knew someone who knew someone. And literally I would like apply, like I would go on Craigslist, and I would go like on these like job search, and I'd be like, oh, I can be a photographer's assistant, or I could be a retoucher, or I could be like a studio manager. And I just never got a big break. Like, I could just never get my foot in the door. Like, it's so niche. Like, the only thing that I could possibly do was be like the 5th photo assistant on a set. The 5th photo assistant on a photo job, you're like the bottom of the totem pole. Like, you're the one that's carrying C-stands. You're the one that's driving the truck. Like, you're not even on set with talent, like learning the inner workings. Like, you're busy doing all the side hustle work, and like the 1st and 2nd assistants are on set assisting the actual photographer. So I was like, you know what? I just was like, this is going to take forever. I'm never going to make it. And at the time, it was not paying enough for me to like rent like a small room in like a shitty New York apartment. So I ended up getting a job for Marc Anthony, the salsa singer. Yes, that, yeah. The dude that was married to J-Lo, yes, that guy. It was probably like the worst experience of my life. I won't go into it. Maybe I'll go into a different video, but I have total PTSD from that position. It was horrible. So that was a horrible experience. I ultimately ended up leaving that position because it was so toxic. And soon after that, I ended up getting like an executive assistant position at Coach, which is even more toxic, if you can believe. The fashion industry. Yikes. Yeah. I remember working that position, and I worked for like some French lady, and she was a fucking nightmare. She was horrible. It was bad. And I was going through a lot. And towards the end of my stay in New York, I went through some really terrible things. Like, I had a death in the family that was really devastating. And I was like, I wasn't, I was losing money. I didn't have work or work that I really enjoyed. So I was like sick all the time. And I was just like, my mental health was like, deteriorating like exponentially. So at the time I had a really good friend, and I remember calling her up and just being like, I gotta get out of New York. I can't stay here anymore. And it was a really tough time. I remember just like calling her. I remember calling her like on a city sidewalk in New York, and like in the middle of the night, just like crying my eyes out, thinking I can't. Why did I come here? Like, what did I do? At that time I felt like I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I had to move back home in with family, which sucked because I just didn't have money to like get an apartment out here, and that was really terrible. So I did that for a while, and then I was living at home, and I was trying to make things work. I'd gotten a job, and I was trying to like do all this stuff and try to get back on my feet, and I did. And at the time I was kind of trying to still do photography, but I was like, do I really want to do this anymore? Like I just felt like my heart wasn't in it anymore. Like I had such a horrible experience in New York about it, and I was like, I probably should do something else. So I just ended up taking alright, if you end up going to Homestate, get the potato. It's I think it's is it vegan? I think it's vegetarian. I was living at home, still trying to like make it. I think what I've always wanted to do in my life was like just be creative, like be expressive, and like make a living out of that. It had always been a dream, and I think that's why I was so caught up with this idea when I was younger that I wanted to be an actor, because I just was like, I want to like be expressive in a way that like inspires people. And to me, deep down, deep in my mind and my soul and my body, when I really think about the things that I do in my life, like I always just want to like be helpful. Like I always want to be the person that I wish I had growing up. Like I wish I had someone that I could look up to, that I could take advice from, that like just could show me how to live a really good life. And so I felt that I could do that, like acting. Like I would be in a really great movie that people would watch and they would be inspired to be like a better version of themselves. Or as a photographer, I could take an image of someone that thinks that they're not, image worthy, and I would make them look amazing, and they would have this image and they would fall in love with themselves. And at one point I wanted to be a writer. I thought I was going to write a book, and like, people would like be inspired by that. And so I try to do all those things. I've written blogs before, and I've taken photos of people. I've taken photos of myself. And so now, being on YouTube is a place that I can be creative. It's my own. I get to call the shots. This is my channel. I get to talk about what I want to talk about. I get to do the things that I want to do, and hopefully people find that inspiring. Hopefully people can really just get to know the person that I am, and like understand that like I just really want to do good in the world. I feel like I've been through a lot of like hardships and heartaches and heartbreak. Again, maybe I'll share that in another video. But I just want to say like all the things that I talk about and all the things that I do here on this channel, all the things that I do here really do come from a lived experience. And I really want to use this channel to like talk about real shit. As much as I go to YouTube and I love YouTube, I enjoy like people opening advent calendars or talking about makeup or like playing video games. Like that's all cool, and I can do those things too. But this is a really great opportunity for me to just share my story, and like hopefully people, isn't that what life is? Like just like people sharing their life and like looking at what people do and like finding things of interest, and like, oh, like he went through a hard time, or like he went through this, and I've done that too, or find something relatable that you can like find a lesson in. I don't know. been wanting to start this channel for like such a long time. And, you know, it just took me a while. It took me a while to really like believe that I could do it, you know. And I watched so much YouTube, and I was like, why not me? Like, I can do this stuff. You know, I could sit in front of a camera and just talk about the things that I do, and, you know, I talk about my life, get to know people, you know, make a community. So right about the time that I was like living at home, or not, that's not true. It started in New York. In New York is when I started kind of figuring out my solo sexuality. I met a couple of solosexuals out in New York, and they were just like, you're a total bator. Like, you should really explore this. You should really like figure out like who you are in this community. And that's when I started to really explore my sex positivity, and like kind of like the idea of like being on the sexual spectrum, and like trying all these things, all these, you know, different identities. And so when I came back home, that's when I had all this time to myself, because I was in just a terrible place. That was kind of like the opportunity for me to like really research, you know, what solosexuality was. And I got online and I started reading articles, and I just did a bunch of research, and, you know, I started talking to people. Put some green salsa on this. I started talking to people in the community, and I was like, oh, this is definitely where I need to be. So that was a really good time. And then at that time, I started to become really interested in like sex and like sex therapy, and in sexual wellness. And for a while, I was like, oh, I want to go back to school and I want to be a sex therapist. And I thought that was a really neat idea, but I was like, I don't have the resources, I don't have the time. I was getting a little bit older, and I was like, I don't really feel like sitting in class for that long. It was just more so it was like the money. I just didn't have the money to like start a whole new education. And so I just started researching on my own. I started reading like self-help books in sexuality, and just started researching like doctors and like people in the sex industry that had really important things to say. And so I was talking to a friend one day about possibly going back to school for sex therapy, and they're like, well, why don't you start with like life coaching? Since you want to like help others, I think that'd be a really great place to start. And I hadn't thought of that, and I was like, oh, I should look into life coaching. So I started looking for a life coach program, and through my internet search, I came across sex coaching, and I don't even know that was a thing. Like, you could coach people about sex. Like, what does that even mean? And so I found this sex coaching business. I think they're based in San Francisco in the Bay Area, where you could take classes online and you could become a sex coach. And it was a lot. And when I first learned about it, I was like, oh, we're going to teach people how to like have sex. But it's not even that. Like, there's actually no sex in this training. It's really more about like connection, creating boundaries, creating sexual intimacy, talking to your partners about getting the best sex that you want, or the type of sex that you want, and just more like inner exploratory, more somatic, like really feeling your body, which was something that I had been missing on for so long. Like, I grew up with like no concept of boundaries whatsoever. Like, my family had no boundaries. I had no idea what those were. And so I was like, wow, I feel like I really need this class, and I feel like I could do this. You know, I was super, super interested in it. So I enrolled. I did the classes. And it was probably one of the best things I ever did in my life. If you have the resources, and if you struggle with like sex intimacy and boundaries, and if it's something that you just never learned growing up, I encourage you to like look into it. It helped me a lot. Like, it was the first time I understood like my own boundaries and like what that feels like where my body feels like, and like what that really entails, and like how to really establish a healthy communication with your partner or partners. And also too, like, you know, being a solosexual, like, it was really important to like get in tune with myself the most. Since I'm a solosexual, I'm going to be spending most of my sexual activities with myself, and so it was super important for me. Like, that was the goal. Like, I'm going to learn all of these skills and all of these tools, and I'm going to apply them to my own life. Like, it was just time. Like, I was at a point in my life where I was so fed up. I was like, all of my relationships are shit. I don't know how to maintain any kind of sexual or like romantic relationship. And I think because for so long I was like modeling like this idea of like being with another person, you know, I was like caught up with this fantasy of like these romantic films. Like, fucking media constantly throws out these ideas of like, you have to get married, or you have to have children, or a perfect home, or, you know, growing up, that's the messaging that I received. It's a little different now, but as a person who suffers from a lot of anxiety, like that was constantly in the back of my mind. Like, in order to be good, in order to be successful, in order to be happy, like, I had to have all these things. And I didn't want all of these things. I didn't. Like, I was just like, why am I being pressured to like get a wife and like have children and a home and 2 dogs and a mortgage? And it was all so much that I just didn't want, and I just didn't understand that I could have a life that I wanted. Like, it was so foreign to me that I could be on my own and kind of do, and, you know, have many lovers or have a lot of different relationships that I could like be involved with. Like, that just wasn't a thing that it just wasn't feasible in my mind. Anyway, I learned a bunch of cool skills and tools that really did help, and then that was the catalyst for me to finally seek therapy. Like, for so long I knew so then going to the sex coaching training, that was a catalyst for me to start to seek therapy services. For so long, therapy was something that I definitely knew that I needed in my life. And therapy is so expensive. Maybe that's another vlog that we could talk about. Like, accessibility to mental health services in this country is shit. Like, it's so fucking expensive. Everyone needs therapy. Everyone should have it. And so for the longest time, I knew that I needed therapy. I needed to get a lot of shit off my chest, and I just didn't have the money to do that. So at the time of the training, I had a really great job, and they offered really great benefits. So I got into therapy. So it was a combination of like therapy and like this sex training workshop, and that was kind of therapy in its own way. And so I started kind of like this healing process of myself and really coming to terms with my sexual identity and like really being confident in that. And so I started branching out, and that was the reason. That was kind of the time that I started the podcast. People in my community should know about this. If it helped me, it could benefit others. And so I started the Beta Escape. That was kind of the birthplace of that, and it's been really great. And it's been going on for 3 years. It's going on for 3 years now. Next year, 2024, will be 4 years, and I hope to make that really great and amazing. But yeah, and so that's where I'm at now. So, you know, when I talk about the things in my life, you know, when I talk about boundaries or sexual intimacy, and, you know, it's coming from a knowledgeable place. You know, because I learned these tools, and I was taught by doctors of sex therapy. The owners of this company have their doctorate degrees and their masters, and so it comes from an educated place. Like, when I'm talking about these things, I'm not talking out of my ass. Like, I've learned these things from like true professionals. And so now that's what I do. So like, I'm kind of, you know, I'm known in the Bator community, which is really nice. You know, people come to me for advice, and people come to me with questions and seek guidance, and I'm more than willing to offer those things to people, again, from a lived experience. It's like, hey, these are the things that I tried. These are the things that I've learned in my life thus far, and maybe it'll help. You know, maybe this knowledge will help you too. So when I started the podcast, like, I didn't really have a goal with it. You know, to be honest, the reason I started the podcast in the first place was because I wanted to, like, make friends. I wanted to meet people, like, who were like me, who, like, had the same sexual identity. And really, that was probably my goal, my first goal. I didn't have a direction. I didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do. And just through the years, it's just kind of evolved into, like, a talk interview. Like, I talk to guests, and I talk to people in the community, and I talk about our journey and our identity. And, you know, I talk to people that have really important things to say. And, or, you know, I pick up people that I find interesting myself. And so, having this YouTube channel is just, like, furthering that goal. Like, it's expanding the universe that I'm currently in, and it's just another platform for me to continue to share the same message, which is, you know, solo sex is valid sex, and that people aren't alone, that we have a community, and there's people here that you can talk to and that listen to, and like, I'm a functioning human being out in the world, like, doing this good work. You know, and I have other goals in mind. You know, I definitely have, like, a book in my mind somewhere that I gotta get off my chest. I love to write. I've been writing all my life, you know, whether it's journaling or, like, short stories or, like, taking a creative writing class like community college. I've always loved to write. I have a couple of blogs up on a website that I'll probably share. I can put in the description box, and you can check those things out. But I feel like I'm not lost anymore. Like, I feel like I definitely have a goal in my mind. Like, I want it to be bigger. Like, I want people to have access to the materials that I produce, whether it's this channel, my podcast, my future books, a voice of knowledge, you know, a voice of experience, to say, oh, you know, there's Rand, there's Beastly Bator, like, you know, he's out and proud living his life, and he's got some interesting things to say, and hopefully people do find it interesting, and people do like the things that I do and say and produce and create. And I think doing this work really incorporates all the things that I'm really passionate about, which I think one of the reasons why it took me longer to create this channel was because you're, like, putting your life out, you know? And that's what I want to do. Like, I don't want to fake pretend that I'm, like, some popular YouTuber, like, that has, like, thousands of homes. I don't. Like, I'm an everyday guy trying to build a business and be really successful at it, and, like, have a nice life, you know, buy a beautiful home, you know, get a couple of dogs, live a comfortable life, and continue to do things that I love to do, which incorporates all the things that I'm doing now. I want it to become more lucrative, and I want it to be more successful, and I want it to reach more people. So, to me, doing that is being real and being authentic, you know, and not putting up a front that you're this person on Instagram that's, like, faking its way through millions of dollars. That's not what I'm about. I ain't fake. I never been fake. I grew up real. I grew up raw. Again, the reason why I think I took so long to make this channel was because, like, it's scary. You know, it's scary to, like, put yourself out there. You know, people write hateful things all the time, and I'm a sensitive fuck. Like, I can't take the comments. I try not to read them. Even the good ones, I hesitate. It gives me a lot of anxiety because it's really scary to speak your truth and have people talk shit about it, and not see you. There's a lot of people who are not going to align with my values or, who I am as a person. And I don't care. I've come to the realization that that's not my job. My job is to speak my truth, to be real as possible, and to just share it. I just hope that people are nice along the way. Or, if people aren't nice, the least that the people can do is, like, get curious. Lean in and just be like, who is this guy? Like, what's he talking about? Like, what are his intentions? And I'll tell you, I'm real. Come talk to me. Like, send a DM or, like, post a comment and, like, ask questions. Like, I'm very chatty. Like, the goal for me is to, like, begin to create community. And if there's ever anything that I say or that doesn't sit well, all I'm asking is that you just be nice, because I'm a nice person. I'm gonna be nice to you, again, like I said, just get curious with me. That's kind of me in a small nutshell. I didn't really go into too many specifics about my life because, like, again, it's difficult to talk about. But I feel like I'm gonna do these. Maybe I'll do these every Sunday morning. I'll call it something. I'll call it morning chats, or I don't know. But I feel like this is a really great opportunity to kind of just, like, one-on-one, get real, talk about some shit that I'm going through, and maybe we can all, like, kind of help each other and, like, figure shit out. Life is fucking hard, and it's hard when it can be really lonely sometimes, and people can get really sad, and I don't want people to feel that way, because I felt like that for a really long time. It's not fun. I hope you have a really great Sunday. I hope you have a really great week. I'm rooting for you. I really am when I say that. Like, I just want everyone to, like, be chill. Like, you don't always have to be happy. You don't always have to be, like, fucking at 100 all the time. Like, I just want you to survive. I want you to make it through, and I want you to be good. And I think I just want everyone to be good. I want everyone to make it, survive the week, do what you gotta do, go to school, go to work, be like a good functioning human, be good to yourself, be kind to yourself. Alright, y'all. I'm gonna finish the rest of these tacos, then I'll probably play some video games, make a video somewhere. I love my Aaliyah shirt. I miss her so much. All right. Well, enjoy like I said, enjoy your week. Have a really great, productive day. And I will check in next week.